Now that it's 6 o'clock, Linda Johnson, could you please give the invocation?
Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, I praise you and I thank you, Lord Jesus, for all that you are. I thank you, Father, that you are the Lord God Almighty. I thank you, Father, that all things are possible with you, that there's nothing that's impossible with you. Father, and I just invite your presence here tonight and your peace and your glory here tonight. And Father, I just thank you for each one of these aldermen. I thank you for our city manager, Locro. I thank you for our Mayor Jody. I thank you, Father, for each and every one of them are here by your design at this time for this season, for the purposes which you have for this city of Freeport. You have given each one of them gifts. You have given each one of them intelligence. You have given each one of them solutions to the many problems which face this city. I'd like to read the word of God. It says, "Never doubt God's mighty power to work in you and accomplish all this. He will achieve infinitely more than your greatest request, your most unbelievable dream." My phone just died. Hang on. Anyway, he'll do anything through you. All things are possible through you. God wants to move through you. He wants the best for this city. He wants the best for the citizens of this city, as do every one of you here. And Father, we also, Father, lift up the many who are in the flooding situation in this city. Our heart goes out to them, Father, and I thank you for the solutions that you are bringing in this city to help each and every one of them. Father, we don't want them to be flooded all the time. They don't want to be flooded all the time, and it's not your desire for them. Your desire for them and your plans for them are for good and not for evil, to prosper them and give them a future and a hope. And that would be our desire as well as your desire. So, Father, I just ask tonight for your peace here. I ask for your solutions here, Father. I thank you, Lord, that you have a plan to help each and every one that's here tonight. In Jesus' holy name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you. We'll officially call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Clem,
Here.
McClanathan,
Here.
Ross,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Busker,
Here.
Brashaw,
Here.
Keister,
Here.
and Berberay.
Here.
Thank you. If you could all please stand with us and for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Alderman Ross.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Item number 1 is the approval of the agenda.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
I have a minor amendments to, I move to make a minor amendments to the agenda. I move to amend the agenda to add, after public comments and before notice of interim appointments by city manager, item number 3.5, which is just introduction of the Senior Resource Center directors.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Yes. A motion made by Alderman McClanathan for that amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second made by Alderman Busker. All those in favor of the amendment? Do we have? Okay, so all those in favor of the amendment only signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. So now before you is the approval of the amended agenda.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Ross. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Item number 2 is the approval of the minutes from the March 4th, 2019 meeting. Is there a motion for this approval?
So move. Second.
Motion made by Alderman Keister, seconded by Alderman Busker. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Public comments. We have one signed up. Mary Ann, did you want to speak on item 8 or 11 or both? Both? Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Mary Ann Garvins, 537 West Dewey. First, I want to mention, as I did in the prior meeting, that members of the general public and media should be able to get copies of the items for consideration for tonight's vote, especially as there could be changes after the committees. Not everybody has computers, the internet, or printers, and some people come straight here from work, so it would be very helpful for them. Item number 8 has to do with regarding parklets and sidewalk cafes. It would be especially helpful to have copies available for the general public, as some of the persons in the audience and viewing might be interested in having the same. The 5-year integrated water and sewer street capital improvement plan, that's extremely detailed. That would be great to have that available. Again, not everybody's got access to computer and such, and so there's water and sewer fees, and should be, some of these improvements should be on the property tax bill, not on the service fee as well. That's the historical track record for the city to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Okay, next we will move on. Next we'll move on to our 3.5, which is the introduction. Yeah, it says that it's unrelated. Yeah, if it's unrelated to the agenda, then it waits till the end. I'm sorry, so the 3.5 is the introduction. So Jim Farrar.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jim Farrar. I live at 1433 West Demeter here in Freeport. I'm currently serving as the president of the board of directors of the Senior Resource Center here in Freeport. And I'd like to inform you of some changes that are being made at the Senior Center relative to its leadership. First, I'd like to acknowledge Sue Lambert, who for the past 6 years was the director of the Senior Center. On February 15th of this year, she stepped down to retire and enjoy time with her husband, Mike. But I'd like to acknowledge all her service during her 6-year tour. She was instrumental in relocating the Senior Center from the offices in the Lincoln Mall over to where we are now by East Stevenson Street. We now have a campus. She's instrumental in increasing the fleet of buses and vehicles that we have to serve the community. We're at 17 at this point, so we're providing services throughout all of Stevenson County and part of Joe Davies County. She brought a foot doctor and a podiatrist that comes in once a week to service our folks. And there's just a myriad of things that Sue has done, and I would just like to recognize her tonight in that regard. And next, I'd like to introduce our new board members, and also as a tribute to Sue, it's taken 2 new directors to replace her. And so the first director that we have is Sonia Shoemaker, who is going to be the executive director of the Senior Services and Outreach Program. And with that, I'll let Sonia introduce herself.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for allowing us to come in tonight. I've been with the Senior Resource Center for almost 5 years in case management and also with Adult Protective Services. I look forward to continuing in Sue's footsteps. They're very large shoes to fill. So with the help of Kevin, by my side. I think we look forward to definitely doing and serving the residents of this wonderful community. So we look forward to working with other agencies and organizations and continuing the great effort and work that is done with the seniors in our community. Thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce the second part of the team, and that is Kevin Countryman, who is going to be the Executive Director of our Transportation and Facilities Program. Kevin?
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I want to thank the board for this opportunity, and Jim and the board, Sue Lambert for the opportunity and laying all the groundwork. Looking forward to working in the transportation department. My focus will be mostly Pretzel City area transit and what's already established there. It's a great program for the community, for Stevenson County, providing public transportation. And then I'll work closely too with Sonia and I. We work pretty well together most of the time. But great opportunity, and just looking forward to collaborating with the city on Pretzel City Transit, maybe some other projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next is item number 4, which is a notice of interim appointment by the city manager.
Scott, you want to come on up? So, as some of you may know, our fire chief, Todd Allen's moving on to Florida. So, in the interim, as we begin our search, it's my great pleasure to appoint Scott Townsend as the interim fire chief. So I need you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of interim fire chief to the best of my ability. Congratulations, Scott. So to make this official, we need you to have the signature on one copy for us, one copy for you, along with the letter. And this appoints you effective immediately as the interim fire chief. Thank you. Did you want to say anything?
I was afraid he was going to say that. Thank you, Lowell, for this opportunity. It's something I've been invested in this city and this department for going on 26 years, and it's a responsibility I don't take lightly. I will give it all. I'll do my best. Very, very disappointed that our fire chief has found a new place to go live, but in the short time he's been here, he's made a huge impact on our department, on our city, and on myself. I've learned from all the chiefs that I've worked for, but I've never had the opportunity to work as closely with a fire chief as I have with Todd, and he's been outstanding. Florida's gain is going to be our loss, but I'll do my best to try to keep things going. If you have any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to call. I'm here at your service, and with the guys and girls that we have working at the City of Freeport Fire Department, they'll make me look good, and that's not an easy job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. Chief Allen, would you like to say anything?
I was going to save something till the last, but I can do it now. But we're in good hands with Scott, absolutely. He's been a joy to work with, and this should be pretty seamless. We've been able to work together, and between Deputy Chief Seneff as well, should be a good seamless transition. And with that, I just want to say how thankful I am, appreciative I am to have been able to serve as their fire chief and to work with this council so closely on some big projects. We've been able to accomplish that, and bittersweet is the emotion that I certainly feel. And so thank you all. Thank you for supporting the fire department, and I pray you continue to support these men and women, because I think this weekend they truly showed what they're all about, and they'll go to the ends of the earth for this community without a doubt. So thank you guys.
Yes, thank you, Todd, and congratulations, Scott. And next is item number 5, which is the consent agenda. All the items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature, enacted as one motion unless there's a member of the council who would like to have something separated for further discussion. Seeing nothing for further discussion, the consent agenda consists of A, the approval and place on file the minutes from the Special Liquor Commission meeting, February 14th, 2019, the building permit report from February 2019, our 2019-11 to the temporary street closures for the Dairy Days Parade for Sunday, June 23rd, 2019, the letter from the city manager for the vacation time for the deputy city manager, Randy Bucas, cash and investment report for February 28th, 2019, financial reports for general, library, water, sanitary, sewers, storm sewer funds for February 2019. B, the approval of the finance bills payable in the total of $949,110.71, and the approval of the payroll for pay period ending March 2nd, 2019, in the total of $557,021.54. Is there a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Brashaw. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Keister.
Aye.
Berberet.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And McClanathan.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 6 is the first reading of ordinance 2019-11. Could you please read this?
An ordinance amending Chapter 242 Fire Department of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Freeport to provide for a new Section 242.55 to establish charges for vehicle accidents, extrications, and fires.
Chief Allen.
Yes, Council, if you remember, this was given last week. We will begin the process of any vehicle accident charging for those vehicle fires and also extrications to build money into the capital improvement. Remember, this is a soft billing process, so no one individual will get a bill. It will only go to the insurance company, which they are paying that part of the policy already. And if you have any questions, I'll welcome those questions.
Any discussion, Council?
Mayor,
Alderman McClanathan.
I just noticed, thank you, I do see the portion of the ordinance where it says, and shall only charge or seek payment from their insurance carrier, as we had discussed last week, so thank you for making sure that was in there.
Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
motion to move it forward.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Parker, to move ordinance 2019-11 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 7 is the first reading of ordinance 2019-16. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Freeport regarding the regulation of alcoholic liquor and mechanical electronical gaming.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As briefed at our last Committee of the Whole and presented by Attorney Cox, the background on this is that we have, just make sure I've got his notes here. We have 5 substantial changes to this that include the corkage fee that allows people to bring their own wine into a restaurant. A restaurant does not have to allow that, but $10 corkage fee. This also sets up a distributed seating for proposed liquor license for video gaming. It also, which the solution is to clarify and define what a space is. People are trying to have the area split across multiple areas within a facility. And also the provision of delivery of liquor. As we know, we already have a liquor that is being delivered, but this establishes requirements for that delivery to include Bassett trained, and delivery of the driver has to be 21. The receipt must be present, and they must produce an ID. License is obligated to keep a record of each delivery, and delivery cannot leave delivery at the doorstep. It must be signed for. Gatherings in parking lots, it basically gives the owners the ability to control who is gathering in the area, the parking lots around the premises, and prevent loitering, and allows the police to prevent loitering and unlawful assembly. The concerns about crowd control and observed lack of cooperation. The other issue is changes it for surveillance cameras, which provides for surveillance cameras in the area for retail to include drive-throughs as well as the outside area. Adding a T4 license, which will allow the sale of liquor at events. It's a new license for a $50 fee. And finally, and this is, we already have a proposal, and that's to clarify the hybrid delivery, which is the drive-up. This is going to be, as Walmart's doing drive-up, it doesn't, and parking, it's off the premise, but allows to be delivered there at the premise. Again, delivery has to be Bassett trained, has to be 21, and has to look for an ID for right there on the park, and they have cameras in this area as well. So those are the changes as we presented and as Attorney Cox presented. Are there any questions?
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Clem.
Just one, Manager Crowe, and I think I know this, but I just want to clarify it. On the T4 license, talks about the T4 license with a $50 fee. Is that $50 per occasion or $50 per year?
$50 per occasion.
Okay.
And they still will have to get, there's a state equivalent license that's $150, so they would still have to get the equivalent state license to go with that.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor.
Alderman Keister.
Yes, thank you. The only concern I have is with the corking fee for wine. Now, I don't know what kind of feedback other people have gotten. I haven't gotten anything yet, but I know a few years ago they attempted on a brown bag license in Freeport to allow beer and wine corking being brought in, and there was a large contingent of the public that was against it. So I would like to have a chance to check with my constituents and stuff more and see if just the wine will be sufficient. But it was voted down unanimously at that time. Alderman Clem, I think you remember that. And I just have a concern of what the public opinion is on this, since it was there was so much comment about it last time, not in favor of it. I'd like to have a chance to check on this first before we vote on it.
Alderman Clem.
Sure. I think one of the big differences at the time, that was a little difference as far as it was basically a BYOB, bring your own bottle type thing. And there was more opposition to that. This is pretty well limited. It's a fee for one bottle, which restricts it considerably, okay? So I understand what you're saying about what was talked about before, but I'm sure you can add if you...
So, and Alderman Clem's exactly right. The other thing, it has to be uncorked by the waitress there at the station, at the whoever's waiting on the table. That's another difference. They cannot self-open the containers, and that can only be done at a restaurant that serves, already has a license to serve this. So all they're doing, and that was a difference as well.
Okay,
And it has to be with food.
Has to be with food. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mayor, and I'm glad you answered that, Manager Crowe, because that was one of the big complaints last time, is that there's restaurants in town that didn't have alcohol, and people like to keep it that way because of bringing their children and stuff in, and didn't have to have them exposed to the drinking.
Yeah, this isn't a free-for-all. They have to have a license.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Manager Crowe, when you were writing this up with our attorneys and coming up with some of the changes that we made, were you looking at the best practices from other communities? Was this based on any specific communities' legislation?
So the corkage fee we find is both prevalent in the Quad Cities as well as in the Chicago area as we go forward. So they come in. It's something that's come from the East Coast. Some of the other things are answers to questions that are already basically we did not have control and did not have ordinances in place to control the delivery, but it was already allowed under state law. So this is a local allowance under our home rule authorities. And Walmart has already applied and already submitted the drawings to do a $2.5 million upgrade to do the type of delivery that they wanted in here. The distributive seating has been an issue because we allowed with a modification of our liquor licenses the council approved last year is to have, in fact, I've already seen it, gas stations to have in it. And what we were finding is when Ben went out to inspect the areas, they said, well, I have 25 feet over here and 25 square feet over here and 25 feet over here and 25 feet over here. So I've got your 100 feet that you're required to have. So that's really to say, no, it has to be contiguous to each other.
One more follow-up. Thank you. And I know the answer to this, but I just want to verify for the listening audience, since I did have one concerned citizen ask about purchasing liquor and have it delivered. From what I understand, and I'm sure you'll verify this, that the person ordering the alcohol by phone is the one that also has to show the ID and has to be the one to receive the alcohol at the place of delivery. Is that correct?
That's correct, and they have to show an ID and sign for it.
Thank you.
Alderman Berberet.
City Manager Crowe, regarding the corkage, is it just bring it in anytime you feel like it, or does the restaurant that serves food and has a license has to promulgate it that they're willing to do that?
They're right. It's any restaurant can say, I'm not going to do it. In fact, I've had two at least that said because of what their nature of their business is, will not allow corkages to come into the restaurant.
Thank you.
In fact, we've had one business that talked with us about it because they've had people come in and say, you have to do this for us. And this ordinance puts it that, no, they don't. That's their business, and if they choose to, they can say no.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Clem.
Just one last thing. Just keep in mind, as we talked about this, all the time we've talked about wine, and it's wine only. It isn't spirits. You can't bring your fifth of Jack in and get the whole party drunk. So there's a great limitation there, really, when you stop and look at it. So, thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman Ross.
are there any prohibited hours, any time of the day or any certain hour of the day when it starts?
For what, the corkage?
Yeah, for the corkage, excuse me.
It's during the times of the operations in which they're serving food.
Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Busker.
Yeah, this would be under the portion where it's talking about the loitering. Just wondering how, because I know some facilities only have one or two people on staff. You know, if no one comes in, how's that going to work for them?
Well, this is really an opportunity. Right now, there is no way the bars have an ability to enforce if they've got an issue, and this really gives them more of an ability to go out and say, basically, move along. We don't want you to loiter out here. What we found is that there are people that are purchasing the alcohol and then from another location, then going to their parking lot, and I'm keep looking at Chief Barclay because I'm going to ask him to speak on this, but and then they drink prior to going into the bar. And Chief, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, just that, you know, Manager Crowe was exactly right. This kind of prohibits people from bringing alcohol in, restricted alcohol into establishment that sells alcohol. So I think that addresses that particular problem.
All right, so, yeah, the licensee won't get fined if, you know, they call the police to take care of someone, you know,
No.
they're not going to listen to the bartender or whoever.
This actually gives right now this gives actually the chief of police and the police department more of an ability to enforce this.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep.
Alderman Clem.
Chief Barklow or Manager Crowe, how does this affect or change what happened at the incident last summer? at one of our establishments where somebody was beat up pretty bad? I mean, does it give you, does it change any crowd control or what you guys can do?
Well, that particular incident, although it was adjacent to a particular location, it wasn't on that property. So I don't know if it would have, really had much effect on that particular incident. But this is certainly where we have people, congregating and those type of things. Sometimes problems do occur. This gives the establishment and also gives the police a little bit more of leeway to move things along and to make sure everyone just has a good time.
Could I do a follow-up? Just to try and nail down a little farther, okay? The incident that we're talking about ended up to be a fairly serious incident, and you're correct that it was away from the one owners, but was right in back of another tavern that serves. Not another tavern, yes, in fact, or a packaged liquor store. Is there any, if this doesn't do that, is there anything we can do to change that?
I wish that we had some sort of ordinance that we could eliminate all kinds of problems anywhere near alcohol, packaged liquor, or bars. But I don't know if there's going to be anything that we can pass to, try to prevent arguments from a parking space like that was, that unfortunately escalated to somebody getting hurt. Yeah.
No, I appreciate the input. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
You have a motion yet?
No, I don't.
I'll make a motion to move it forward.
Second.
I have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Busker to move ordinance 2019-16 onto the next regularly scheduled meeting. Next is item number 8 for the first reading of ordinance 2019-17. Madam Clerk, would you please read this?
An ordinance amending the codified ordinances of the City of Freeport regarding parklets and sidewalk cafes. It amends sections 1026.17 and 1034.01 through 1034.08 inclusive of the codified ordinances of the City of Freeport.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, as we discussed in the Committee of the Whole and as was presented by Attorney Cox and myself, we currently have two separate ordinances that follow different regulations for sidewalk cafes and parklets, and they're both supposed to be addressing the same thing, even to the point where we have different licensing officers. These brings these two ordinances under a single ordinance and makes the city manager as the licensing person for both parklets and sidewalk cafes. It also changes that under the parklet side, sales of alcohol, we're only in conjunction with the food, but we're allowed to serve alcohol at the sidewalk cafe, so it allows without food. So it realigns those into a single, so that they're very similar. What we're finding is most businesses are either having a parklet or they're having a sidewalk cafe as we move forward. So that is what we want to do here, is combine them into a single ordinance within the city.
Questions?
Motion to move it forward.
Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Clanathan to move ordinance 2019-17 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Item number 9 is the first reading of ordinance 2019-18. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
An ordinance amending Title 10 Employment Provisions, Chapter 290, Compensation and Benefits, Section 290.03, Special Salary Provisions, removing subsection E, Lateral Entry Program for police officers of the codified ordinances of the City of Freeport.
Thank you. Manager Crowe.
I'm actually going to turn this over to Chief Barklow, and I may ask Attorney Cisnowski to add into this. So.
Thank you. This is basically just a cleanup of our current ordinances that allow the collective bargaining agreement to be the driver for this, because this actually aligns itself with our collective bargaining agreement. And so I think this just try to clean this up so we don't have two things that kind of mirror each other.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan.
Council, if there was a conflict between this ordinance and the CBA would control, correct?
That's correct. The CBA would control. Our recommendation is to remove it from the Code of Ordinances so that every time there's a change to the lateral hire agreement, that you don't have to go back then and revise the ordinances, because obviously there's a cost to it, so.
Follow up, Mayor?
Yes.
And in that light, I just wanted to, stress we're not getting rid of the program. It's just that
You are not.
because the CBA controls anyway, there's no real point in having it separately in the ordinance.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
I'd like to make a motion to move this forward, please.
Second.
Any other discussion, council? We have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Busker to move ordinance 2019-18 on to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Next is item number 10, which is the first reading of ordinance 2019-19. Madam Clerk, could you please read this?
An ordinance amending Chapter 242 entitled Fire Department, Section 242.53, Fire Department Capital Fund of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Freeport.
Manager Crowe or Chief Allen?
Let me give credit to Chief Allen because he proposed this to me, and so I'll turn it over to Chief.
Yeah, when we were looking at the capital projects that are in our future and what we're looking at that we have to replace, I approached Manager Crowe with the possibility of trying to bargain a little bit over the capital fund and trying to not hurt the city in any way by lowering the amount of money. That 54% actually kept the physical amount of $405,000 in the budget, which would have been equal to what we've had the previous years. The difference is the amount of money that is being generated into the capital fund from our ambulance fees has increased greatly. So that said, we raised the amount of money from the 675 to 750, changed the percentages so the city didn't lose any money, which then able to allow the fire department to gain a little bit more, another 6% into the capital funds to put in for items such as air packs and some of those large ticket items that we weren't able to fund before.
So the other thing we've done here is the ordinance used to have a set amount in here. We've removed that set amount out of this. So this is based upon, actually, as we go forward and some of the other fees we're going to, that we have approved, we actually feel that we're even going to gain more money with the extraction and the lift fees in here, so.
Correct.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. I certainly agree with getting rid of that dollar figure that you referenced. I think that was initially put in place to be pretty close to the percentage thresholds when this was initially put in place back in the day. But now we're beyond that substantially. So it was an either or anyway, whichever is the greater. So it makes sense just to go with the percentage. And if you recall, I believe this was initially instituted under a 40% general fund, 60% capital, and it's flipped in recent years in part due to recognition of some of the increased costs from, in this case, with fire, with some of the other burdens that it had on the general fund. However, we've had a variety of factors, and we have including restructuring, and then also we have these increased pressures. So I'd say congratulations on successfully bringing something. Usually when something goes into the general fund formula of it, you never see it come back, but it's prudence for us for long-term planning on some of the capital expenses. So I think this makes a lot of sense to get back to that 54% now.
Any further discussion?
I'd make a motion to approve or
Second.
move forward.
Mayor?
Sally.
Alderman Keister.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick statement. I think this is a good idea. And I know I was on when this capital improvement setup was first started. And the intent was, as it's been doing, is to purchase equipment for the fire department without having to take it out of the capital fund. And I can tell you that while I was on a department, there were a number of departments across the country that were looking at the program that we had, that we started, to try and fund their equipment. And I'm glad to see that we're balancing it out so we can continue to keep the fire department as best as we can get it without putting a continued burden on the taxpayers and on the general fund.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion made by Alderman McClanahan, seconded by Alderman Brashaw to move ordinance 2019-19 on to the next scheduled meeting. Item number 11 is the approval of the 5-year water and sewer and street integration capital improvement plan. Manager Carr? No, I mean Director Carr.
Before he starts, this is the same, we just modified, this is the same plan that was shown to you with, I think, 5 weeks ago. In the draft form, this is for your approval. We did do some slight modifications as we go forward into it.
Yes, as Manager Crowe stated, this was 2 cows ago. We presented this to you. So we're going to kind of take a look at it, give you a list of all the loans we have right now sitting on the water and sewer side. As you can see, kind of on the top, we've got at least 6 there that we're currently paying on. Phase 1 through 7 are the water plan that Fair Graham had proposed to us that we had worked with them about for the next 5 years. The lead service lines we're trying to take advantage of some funding on those. Right now there's 100% funding on some lead service line loans. So we don't really want to lose out on what we might consider free money. So those are the water and sewer loans that we've got.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Director Carr, why is phase 7 blank?
Because it is going to sit just outside of fiscal year 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Yeah,
questions?
so I guess I should brief this with, we actually have a 7-year, that's how far we've looked at it, but we've been just asked to present a 5-year, and so that's why that is sitting out there.
Standard capital plan that we typically have to present for our grants, for our bonding issues, is 5 years. However, the tasker that I gave Director Carr and Director Kapansky was I want 7 years because that can look at, as we were going through the adjustment in the fees for water and sewer that you had previously approved, we were really looking at what we can afford out for the next 7 years.
Okay. One more follow-up.
Yes.
It would be nice if they would put a little footnote in here somewhere to remind us that it's in a future year, or because when I look back at this later, I may or may not remember that response. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Clem.
Dennis, or this could be for Tom, in the SCADA systems, or is it system-wide, 2020 it jumps from 50,000 to 300,000. Is that for, I know you talked about, is that for a complete renovation of it, or?
Okay, let's see. One thing with it is that with the projects coming online, that's going to be funded, with those loans. But then we have other parts of the system that are not going to be updated at the same time. So then we're going to go and take those separately, and that's going to be out of that line item. So 50,000 will begin, and then I have preliminary quotes to go and get that work done, but I felt that it's not beneficial to try and get it done during the 2019 B fiscal year, but in the 2020 fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
So this is kind of the layout of our capital plan for the water and sewer side. As you can kind of see at the top, those are our lease vehicles that we have already taken possession of, and we're paying out as we speak. The red numbers on the side are all future leases. We've got 5 vehicles coming in from our enterprise lease program this year. Those are the construction truck 1 with crane, 2 without crane, 3. the Public Works Director truck and then the Plant Maintenance truck number 1. We've got vehicles to turn in for all of those but one currently.
Dennis, before you move off the slide, I do want to point out to council that while we have the 5-yard dump and the 2 tandem dumps on here, at this point we do not have funding identified for those going forward. The same thing with the boom truck. We know that we need to replace them in the 5-year period as we had briefed earlier, but we're still looking for how to fund those within our plan.
This is breaking out those initial phase 1 through 7 contracts. As you can kind of see, we've kind of got them blocked off there on when we feel like they're gonna, what fiscal year they're gonna fit into. Nothing has changed on this since the committee of the whole. This is a continuation of the same items, except for instead of it being line items, it's the structure items. And again, this hasn't changed since the cow as well. I believe this is where Alderman Clem was talking about the SCADA upgrade. And again, none of this on this slide has changed since that cow either.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Under storm sewers, how come you have it flagged under 3 critical projects under the $250,000 with the red flag?
That's the same thing that Tom had talked about. That's just a tickler. That was for me and him to remind on what we were going to be discussing when it came time to look at those projects. So those 3 critical projects are all worth over $250,000. That's just what we're planning to bring in at that time. And so as soon as our projects get going, we'll have to put out some design for that, and then we're be looking to take payments on those different loans as we go out.
Some of those are storm sewer, some of our largest, and I think we have 1 retention pond in that too, in the large.
Those 3 critical projects, we've got 2 outlets underneath the railroad tracks to the river, and then 1 that runs from Reed Park up to a section that we'd already built. So there was a project that had went on in the past that ran out of funding, and so it just stopped. So it's completing that project. That's one of the 3.
Mayor.
Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. And on those other 17, the low-level and mid-level projects, when we have them in for fiscal year 2019, you're looking at the amended fiscal year 2019, so by the end of the year, we should have those projects done?
That is the intent. As long as we have a good summer.
Right. Weather
if we have a
permitting.
real wet one, we might not be able to get that done. We do plan on doing a majority of that in-house. So.
Those are the detention ponds.
Yes, we've got a lot of single unit problems and detention problems.
Just a bit.
This is a breakdown of the current public works, or I guess the street and forestry division side. The vehicles at the top are all current lease. The only vehicle that we're going to bring in under the enterprise lease fund this time is the code enforcement supervisor truck. The rest of them we have broken out throughout up until 2022, at which time then we'll start replacing the fleet out that we have got currently. Below that you'll see the new airport tractor, or I guess mower, and then the potential for the hook lift truck, new patch box. Currently our forestry is working on a patch box of their own, so if it ends up working like they designed, then we may be able to pull that item out. But we'll keep it in until I have proof that what they are designing and building is working. The UTV snow blower will come in handy when we start clearing some of the heavier snows that we had this year. Our Polaris wasn't strong enough, didn't have enough power to clear the bike path down Empire. So there was times where we were having to take out our skid steer to clear off that bike path. This will allow us to clear that snow a little bit further than 2 feet off the path, so that way we can maintain that a little bit better.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Clem.
Navajo Drive is in with your detention
Yes, yes,
project?
that is one of the, I think that's a mid-level project.
That's a what project, excuse me?
The mid. It's one of the 7 mid-level projects.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Burberry?
There's two different costs there for the, you get the name right. The hook lift truck with leaf boxes are 32,000 and 48,000. Is a difference in size or equipment or what?
That's the 8-year versus 12-year, or 8-month versus 12-month.
Oh, okay, thank you.
These are the future road projects that we plan on taking on. The Pecatonica Prairie Trail, that's the bike path. We have just adjusted that. That will be going out to bid in June. We had to reject the bids that we received here this month.
So the council's not worried. The reason we had to reject the bid, there was a problem. There was some paperwork that we had filed. In fact, we had gotten with IDOT. They had approved it, but they forgot to include it in the package to the feds, right?
Yeah, so District 2 had read it, approved it, sent it on to Central. They had plenty of time, but Central gets so busy right before lettings that they didn't get a chance to look at the funding until like the day after the bid were opened. And once the bids are open, they're no longer allowed to adjust the funding due to what they would consider as good bid prices, because they would be doing that on every single job. So IDOT has actually taken the stance for us. They went to Central and they were discussing with them whether or not we were going to be able to get the extension, since our sunset clause was actually this past letting itself. So District 2 has approved of that extension. They have pushed on and talked with the FHWA, and they side with District 2. So there should be no problem with us getting an extension on that sunset clause. And then with that, we are allowed to put the construction engineering as part of the ITEP grant as well. So now we'll be paying a 20% match on everything that's done out there instead of just the construction. So we also have the Float Street resurfacing, Fields of Freeport roadway. That is that's taken into account due to the well site going in there. We have the rest of our match for the Arts Plaza. It's actually a little bit lower than that currently. That was what it was before. We did a little bit extra work out there. Woodside Drive and the Wild Oats Wheatland Country items. Woodside Drive is going to be the full depth cement stabilization. I think I'd brought that. I think I'd actually said that was going to be Golden Place Recycling, but due to the tree cover and the damp area out there, it's going to be a cement stabilization instead. Not a whole lot different, same life expectancy, just cost a little bit more. With all the tree cover out there, it wasn't going to allow the asphalt to cure out, so the concrete's a better way of getting a nice firm base.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanahan?
Thank you. Long curb and gutter issues out on Woodside, is it going to remain status quo for on this period, or what are we doing?
It's going to be back like it is, so it's going to still have that country feel, that rural setting. So we do not plan on putting curb and gutter out there this time.
Follow-up, Mayor?
Yes.
And then looking at the Woodside, Wild Oats, Wheatland, Country, those being put in this fiscal year, were those directly a result of the change in the funding formulas that we did for the last increase for those projects? Is that that's what's authorizing those?
Yes, those are coming from the $2 street infrastructure.
And we got Adams Street reconstruction on here, but we also have Hancock Bridge in fiscal year 2021. The year that's in, is that contingent on the response that we get in regards to whether or not we're approved in the federal bridge program for a certain year down the road?
Yes, the Hancock Bridge is, we've applied for it for that fiscal year.
We haven't gotten any answer on that yet this year, right?
No, we have not.
Okay. Thank you.
The rest of those items, the same funding sources sit out. I haven't seen any changes. I don't know of any changes that have come across then, so they're instead of doing the step-by-step on everything, I this is all the projects that I've got listed. I've also put in all of our local projects, which are on the next slide. So this year, our local workers are going to be concentrating quite a bit on the arcade. Shawnee's showing a little bit of roughness there. I mean, anybody who's driven out Shawnee right now, it's in a lot of trouble. So we're looking to get Shawnee from the bend all the way out to the VFW there, and then De Leon, there's 2 blocks from the corner east, and then 15th between De Leon and Shawnee as well. So we're going to concentrate on those. We're going to mill and overlay those ourselves. We've also got Ebby, which is over here by one of the fire stations. The fire trucks coming out of that have beat it pretty much dead. So we're going to wait until the summer once the school lets out there, and we'll get that overlaid as well. I didn't want to put any other roads in there just based off of what we've got manpower-wise. I mean, we've got at least 1,000 tons of asphalt here that could go down. We've got a lot of chip seal prep work that we're looking at working out through the rest of the arcade, even some parts of the southeast section of town there. We've got a lot more planned out, but I didn't want to promise anything that I didn't think you could get taken care of.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
thank you. The roads you were referring to are those ovaled on this map, is that correct? There's ovals around them, colored ovals?
Yeah, so the green ovals are the local ones over here in the arcade, and then Ebby. The dark blue are the ones that we were going to contract out. And that is Woodside Drive, Trace, Court, Lane, and then the 3 up here in Old Cherokee. Then we got the Float Street projects here that are both local funded. The Adams Street project here, which we will be using our surface transportation funds on from IDOT. And we're beginning to start the engineering on that. I've made a couple phone calls and starting to line up some of our our consultants for that.
For the engineering portion, we have to put out basically a request for qualifications, and we're going to bring that, and when we do the engineering work for Adams, we'll bring it forward to council, who's our recommendation is.
Yep, and then the other change to this slide from the cow is the local paving work here. This is just summing up what I was speaking about in the arcade as well as Ebby. So a lot of the chip seal prep work, a lot of the chip seal thoughts is coming from, there are a lot of communities out there that are doing more chip seal work. You get a lot more for it. Yes, it does leave a little bit of chips there. Give it about a week and a good sweeping, and most of those chips come back. But when we start doing some chip seal work, we'll make sure we've got plenty of signs out there for loose gravel and stuff like that.
Mayor.
Alderman Keister.
Yeah, and I appreciate you putting out signs, because I know a lot of us on motorcycles and stuff, that chip seal, when that's first put down, is extremely dangerous.
Yes.
So please make sure you get enough signs out there so bikers know that they got to reroute around that, or we're going to have to start picking up more bikes in that area when you do it.
Yep, we will make sure we got it well signed.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Clem.
If I could, Dennis, and this would involve your department. I was just looking at this, and one of the things you talked about was let me pick it up. I want to see the leaf pickup equipment. I didn't see anything in the first part, and I was just trying to see. I didn't think I moved it that far. The bush cutting attachment, bush cutter attachment. Didn't we have one repaired or just in the last year or so, or have a problem with one?
So the bush cutter attachment goes on our skid steer. It's not for leaf pickup. We have a lot of overgrowth on the bike path as well as out on Lancaster Road that would be used for.
Okay, got you there. And the leaf stuff, when are we going to address that? Because we talked about that, but
we actually are working the lease for those right now in FY 2019 to get the first hook lift
Okay, thank you.
And that's all of the capital.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Clem?
motion to move it forward?
Second.
Have good approval?
Is that second you, Parker? Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, there's a motion for the approval of the 5-year water and sewer and streets integration capital improvement plan. Made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Parker. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Ross?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Keister?
Aye.
Berbere?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
And McClanahan.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 12 is the approval of the Fairgram contract for the South Float Avenue Water and Sanitary Sewer Replacement Project Phase 2. Director Carr?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So Phase 1 has been bid out currently. It is going from South Street up to Galena. Phase 2 here, this contract is for the engineering design and IEPA permitting for the replacement of both the water main and the sanitary sewer. Continuing on from South Galena all the way up to Adams Street. The goal is to get this work out completed so that the project can be bid and awarded, so that once their contractor is completed with Phase 1, they will start on Phase 2 there directly.
Discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Brashaw?
Thank you. Director Carr, you will make sure it gets patched, though, this summer.
Yes, it does need it.
Very dangerous. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Busker?
Motion to approve. Second.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Clem?
just for discussion, so we know this is the engineering fees, so we can move forward to get our funding, the matchable funding and that kind of stuff. Is that correct?
That is the hope.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor,
Alderman McClanahan?
so we got 2 phases on here, and we started with, you targeted, or I'd say the administration targeted float, because when you did your street-wide assessment, both of the worst sewer and the worst streets, and you looked at where did that overlap, this was one of the high critical areas, so that's why we targeted that entire stretch, correct?
Yes, for both water, sewer, and the roadway itself.
And follow-up, Mayor, and having Fairgram was awarded the bid for Phase 1, correct?
Yes, they were.
Do you believe it would lead to more efficiency and a better result to have the same firm handling Phase 1 and 2 on this stretch?
Yes, I would.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion made by Alderman Busker, seconded by Alderman Keister for the approval of the contract. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Ross?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Keister?
Aye.
Berbere?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
And McClanahan.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you mind reading item number 13?
Gladly. Approval of engineering contracts under the 2019 Master Service Agreement with Fairgram. 5 contracts are presented. One is for well number 11, Fields of Freeport Subdivision, Water Treatment Plant Preliminary Engineering Concept Plan, Phase 2 Water Main Improvement, Topographic and Utilities Survey, and IEPA loan application.
Director Carr?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As you guys can recall, back in September of last year, we had brought forth a master services agreement contract council with Fairgram to push forward with our different water plan. That would have been the phases that I'd brought up in the capital improvement plan, essentially 1 through 7. So we had passed that with the intent of using that $200,000 a year to develop those plans and push forward with those different water service plans. So those 5 contracts, the hour rates sit before you for well number 11. That's going to be with the Fields of Freeport subdivision. Those 2 are actually in the same spot, as is the water treatment plant concept engineering. Those are all going to be there, sitting off of Burchard, back behind Culver's. The Phase 2 water main improvement sits along Cleveland. It's going to run off of the north side of that plant. That's going to allow us to service both the high zone and low zone. And then that contract 5, the IEPA loan application, that is the funding mechanism where we can then get the reimbursement for.
Mayor.
Alderman Keister.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Parker. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion made by Alderman Keister, seconded by Alderman Parker for the approval of the engineering contract as stated. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Keister.
Aye.
Burberry.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And McClanathan.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item number 14 is the approval of the bid for the Alberta Airport Access Road for the from Baileyville Road. Manager Crow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you know, the county and the city were partnering on this project for the payment of it. The bid came in under the it's actually almost right at the amount of the grant. Bid was for $872,370 $41. William Charles was construction was the low bidder. There were 5 bids. This is the way it works on the aviation bids is the state picks the bidder and it's been in Springfield. It is our match is $100,000, $50,000 came from the county, $50,000 from the city. Going forward, we recommend we have to make a decision whether we're going to accept or reject this bid by the end of the month. So our recommendation is we accept this bid, and they will start work sometime April-May timeframe on the road.
Motion to move it forward.
Second.
Second it.
It's approved.
We need a motion for
Approve.
approval.
Pardon me.
Arts or Patrick or a couple. Parker.
Is there any further discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Brashaw.
thank you. I just want to clarify, the only monies that the city has to pay is $50,000,
That's correct.
and the grant will cover the majority of it with the exception of the other $50,000 paid by the county.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So we have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Ross for the approval of the bid. As so stated, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Keister.
Aye.
Burberry.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 15 is the approval of the bid for the Alberta Airport Electrical Vault. Manager Crow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the upgrade of the vault was determined by IDOT Aviation that our vault requires upgrade and because of not only its the condition but its location to meet the airport layout plan. Again, William Charles Construction was low bidder. In fact, they were the only bidder for $582,000. We initially had another bid 6 months ago, and it was much higher than this, and it was rejected. William Charles was not and we asked it to be rebid. In our portion of this grant, I don't have it right off the top of my head. Randy, you remember what it was?
$337,000.
No,
Where else?
what do we have to pay for this? It's like 37.
Oh, $37,000.
Yeah,
Yes, an extra 3 in
37,000.
there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Got 3 numbers.
Yeah, I
in my
was
head.
worried.
37,000.
Okay, so 37,000 is our portion of this grant.
Is there anything from the county on that?
No, this is strictly, they helped pay for the road. This is the municipal grant part of this is only 5%.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mayor.
Yes.
As Manager Crow, given the, yeah, I think Busker was the second, but given the history that we've had in regards to the bids in regards to this, where you had the one rejected that was substantially higher, you've only got the one on this one. Is there any benefit or reason, or would you anticipate any different result if we went out for additional bids at this time?
Well, it would, the only option we have is to accept or reject this.
Right.
And so then the state would rebid it. And I don't think, the requirements, they're having problems on electric vaults as a whole because of the requirement. It has to deal with the electrical requirements and for electricians within the state of Illinois.
So bottom line, you don't anticipate a better result?
No, I don't think any better result.
Madam
It
Mayor.
is also with a reputable firm that's been around for years, so.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Bradshaw.
Thank you. So, Manager Crow, the total of these two projects for Albertus Airport total $1,454,616.
That's correct.
And our share total, 50,000 plus the 37,000 for the electrical would be a total of $87,000.
That's correct.
Sounds like a bargain.
All we need is money.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? And I believe it was Alderman Clem, correct, on the first? Yep. So we have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Busker for the approval of the bid for the electrical vault. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye. Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Keister.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Clem.
Aye.
And McClanathan.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 16 is the approval of the proposal from GovHR for fire chief recruitment and selection. Manager Crow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we discussed in executive session at the last meeting, this was a recommendation that going forward, this will be a nationwide search, and we have already, they've already started some of the paperwork. I did ask them to shorten down their timeline, and they're shooting for an 8-week search as we go forward into this. The person that is their lead has done several successful searches across the nation. He's a retired fire chief. As going forward, he is scheduled to be, if approved, he is scheduled to be here Wednesday to interview both Chief Townsend and Deputy Chief Seneff, as well as other members of the fire department. And then he's going to be doing a survey. He'll also be talking with myself about the qualifications. And this will give us, we're putting a request in to also add into the field, make sure that we're covering minority recruitment, as well as possibly looking at a woman in the recruitment pool as we go forward. Understand that what they'll do is they'll do all the background checks for us, all the initial surveys, all of the interviews of the references, and then present us their top 10 candidates.
Manager Crow, or Mayor first.
Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. Manager Crow, while we talk about this being an expansive search and trying to make it as thorough as we can, nothing ultimately in your hiring decision, it could be from anywhere as local or as far away as possible.
Correct.
And we're basically going to look at every single area.
Every single area. I encourage anybody locally as well as nationwide to recruit it. We did require, Chief Allen worked with me on the requirements as we go forward. We're requesting for EFO, CFO as a Chief Fire Officer, as an additional EFO is required, Executive Fire Officer required, CFO desired, bachelor's required, master's desired, and then also meeting the minimum state requirements. And a minimum of 10 years service, 3 years in their rank, in either captain, battalion chief, district chief, or chief equivalent.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Brashaw.
Thank you. Manager Crow, we realize that ultimately it's your hiring process, and you will be the one that chooses the fire chief. Who will be present at the interviews with you?
So last time I did the interviews for Chief Allen, and I'm going to add some. I'm going to add one of the deputy chiefs will be in it. I also added the union. I had the union president, the president of the Fire and Police Commission, myself, HR director, and I'll add Deputy Bucas as well.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Is there a motion for the approval?
So moved.
Seconded.
We have a motion made by Alderman Brashaw, seconded by Alderman Ross for the approval of the proposal for GovHR. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Ross.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Busker.
Aye.
Brashaw.
Aye.
Keister.
Aye.
Berberay.
Aye.
Clem.
No.
McClanathan.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-1.
Thank you. Next is Department Heads, Finance.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Community Development.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple things. Pretzel City Transit provided the transportation for the St. Patty's Day pub crawl on Saturday. That was kind of unique, and it was really the first time that they rented themselves out to be used for a special event. And both they and the event organizers, we've heard, thought it worked out really well. So we're excited that might be a new revenue source for our public transportation as we move forward. And an update on nuisance as well. Of course, for the last 2 months or so, snow and ice removal has kind of been the bread and butter for those guys. And now that that's melted, we're looking for all the trash and debris that's been covered up by the snow the past several weeks. Did want to note, over the past week or so, we found several residents making leaf piles in the street, expecting a spring leaf pickup that's never going to come, not a service we offer. So we've been issuing those residents warnings to please move the leaves out of the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Works.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Want to give a little report. The river is currently sitting right at 17 feet. It has came down about 3 inches since this morning. With that being said, as soon as the water gets down low enough, we will begin our cleanup on the east side there. And outside of doing the barricade cleanup, barricade shifting, and the street sweeping, we will also be pavement patching everywhere we can. So,
Thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman McClanathan.
Both for the director as well as Manager Crow, what does the post-flood receding cleanup look like and entail? You mentioned barriers, but what all does that entail, or what do you envision?
So one of the things when Director Carr and I did a tour yesterday morning, what we wanted to look at was debris. We know we have at least one telephone pole that's down in the area. We've had a lot of debris come out of R squared throughout that we need to clean up. We know we have several barriers that are down. We also have indications that we have at least one water main break or possible sewer problem. So we're going to have to look at that. And then as part of it, we have 7.5 feet right now on Park, Mary, and some other roads. We're going to have to actually do some inspections because the water was flowing back through out of the river. We think the stormwater sewer, we're going to have to do some inspections. Dennis, do you want anything else to that?
I'm going to assume there's going to be a lot of silt came in from the river. I mean, it's moving pretty fast. There's a pretty good current route moving down most of the side streets right now. So we're going to have to look at anything that could have eroded behind or underneath roads or behind the curb, anything like that. So the cleanup itself will be more than just going in and sweeping up the garbage. It'll be, I think we're going to have to take a little bit finer tuned look at the roads and make sure that they're still structurally sound.
Thank you.
Fire.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up on what Director Carr was saying, the fire department's been over there. We do have about 21 residents that remain located and living over in that area. And, you know, our concern is our services that we provide, whether it's medical emergency or fire response, is going to be greatly diminished to those people just because of the water levels until it does recede and hopefully does quick without any incident. But anytime you're operating outside the norm, things tend to happen. And so we'll do our best. We'll get over there, and our people have really spent a lot of time over there as City Manager Crow has relayed to you guys. So with that, they've done a great job. And just to follow up what I said earlier, thanks again for working with me, and it was a pleasure working with all the aldermen and all the projects, and Mayor and City Manager Crow and all the staff here. We got a great staff, and so thank you.
It was a pleasure to have you. Please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just to reiterate a little bit, our portion of this, we're still going to have security at the Stevenson, at the tracks, restricted access. I get the fact that a lot of folks are frustrated with that. They're anxious to get back and check their properties. I certainly understand that, and I would feel the same way too. It's just very dangerous still. It's even if to walk through there, it's very dangerous. You can't see what you're stepping into or on or anything else. And also the current is still very strong through there. So we certainly don't want to rescue somebody else, and we don't want anybody to get hurt. So far we haven't had anybody hurt, and we certainly don't want to. So bear with us, bear with my people down there. Hopefully this thing will go down and we'll allow access. And I know everyone's anxious to get back there to assess and start cleaning up, and so am I, honestly. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Water and Sewer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to go on, the first item is that the department received a check today from ComEd, and that deals with the energy enhancements that we've been able to go and do. So that was just under $15,000, and this way we're going to be using our equipment more efficiently, and then there will be times when we won't have to run everything at full speed. The project that took last week along Pearl City Road, Ridgefield, the golf club, and Cray Park, that's 75% complete, and that went well. And I look to sometime in April, maybe if I can be indulged for no more than 5 minutes to present before and after to see what took place. The water plant, our facilities are meeting the demands. And then at the wastewater plant, we've had increased flows due to the precipitation last Tuesday evening and the high river flow. But things are, you know, we're keeping it in the road.
Thank you. IT. Thank you. Manager Crow.
Thank you. I want to just cover two things, and council, please indulge me on the second item. So I want to thank Chief Allen. He was one of my first hires coming in, and he has made a dramatic change in the fire department as well as the way we're doing business here, and he will be missed. I would wish that he would be here for another 4 years and being part of the great team we've put together out here, but I understand the family concerns, and he and I have talked about that, and I wish him the best, and I know he'll be doing great things down in Florida. So it's been a pleasure. I want to kind of go through and talk about the staff that and one of the things and how we've gone out with handling the flooding. I know we've had a lot of questions about this. So on Thursday, at the recommendation, the two chiefs and Andrew put together a flyer. Wednesday went around for contact numbers, and the police and fire delivered those door to door by warning that we were facing, based upon what we had in Darlington and what we were seeing in Darlington as well as Martintown, that we were facing a 17-foot flood and projection as we went forward. Saturday, we started about 4 o'clock doing door-to-door checks, asking people to go out, and we were actually using our dump trucks as well as the 450s and Bob Slodgy. I'm going to recognize a lot of people here. I don't know how to pronounce Keith's last name. Vital. Aaron Reed, Bill Niesman worked from out there at Public Works, Deputy Chief Summers, Sergeant Tim Weichel, Corporal Andrew Larnt, and please correct me if I'm mispronouncing these names. Officer Darren Hodge, Officer Richard Macamel, Officer Devin Tuckerman, and then Auxiliary Officers Don McCollum and Auxiliary Officer Chris Wall participated in that. District Chief Timmerman, Lieutenant, I can't read my own handwriting here, I'm sorry. Seth Rude, Firefighter Holtz, Firefighter Book, Firefighter Thomas. They all worked in wetsuits basically until 10 o'clock at night. And then they came back after midnight and pulled and rescued another 11 people after that point. And we began rescues again at sunrise, and fireman Horchman, is that right?
Otterbaum.
Thank you. Fireman Compton, Fireman Thomas were out there along with Deputy District Chief Steekel doing rescues, and they were doing rescues, and they worked 14 hours. We've rescued 173. Teams came back this morning, rescued another individual, and they've been out there. We sent out a MABUS call, had units from Boone County, Winnebago County, and here in Stevenson provide assistance, and we went to a waterborne rescue. The Red Cross shelter was set up at noon on Saturday. We coordinated with them along with the Housing Authority, and Andrew Crutchfield conducted checks with us on the Housing Authority, and he continued to track, and we did a door-by-door, and Andrew's continued to go back in there, as has Greg Munda from the school district, and worked very closely in checking. Myself, Director Carr, and Greg Munda checked the school on Sunday morning, and then while we were doing rescues from the Housing Authority, we rescued or took out 173 residents, 14 dogs, 10 cats. Director Carr, I will give, and Director Bucas, Deputy City Manager Bucas also provided and did door-to-door, as well as Chief Barkalow, and Dennis was out there the same. He will give all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And we set up command centers first at Arts Place, at Auto Body, Art Glass, excuse me. Auto Glass. I also want to recognize Alderman Ross and Alderman McElhanathan, who helped Saturday night in doing the door-to-door checks along, and I was out there as well both days. So we did the door-to-door checks. We have additionally, as I said, we are continuing to check. We flew drones for business owners that wanted to check their businesses. We had notified the businesses Friday morning that we expected above a 17-foot flood, advised them to clear out. We did have some businesses, UPS ignored us, but we worked very closely with the other businesses back in there, and we actually worked very closely with St. Paul's Missionary Baptist Church. They actually conducted a wedding Saturday as we were starting the removal, and continued to do that. On Sunday, I met with out at the command center where we had moved it to the bridge. Met with Senator Stewart and Chairman Hadley, and worked the declaration of a disaster declaration from the county. The way it works, it has to, under the new requirements, it has to come from the county since they are the EMS coordinator. Representative Stewart then contacted Pritzker, thank you. Governor Pritzker, who has been back in touch with Chairman Hadley last night. IEMA arrived this morning and started, Illinois Emergency Management arrived to start doing an overview of the area and taking pictures, as well as going up in Winslow and McConnell, so that they put the information so the state can move forward with their request for a disaster so we can get FEMA response back in this area as well as, and that has to come from the state to the federal government. Congressman Bustos' offices were contacted, and they have reached out to us as of today to provide whatever support they can, as well as I understand Senator Duckworth's office has also reached out to the mayor. The Red Cross, as I said, set up their shelter at noon on Saturday. They're continuing to go out there, and the Salvation Army has been serving the meals in conjunction with there. We already have at least 3 organizations that have reached out to the city, which we have sent to the Salvation Army, that is providing assistance coming into the city. For everybody's information, this 17.3 flood, which we received, was the biggest flood since 1933. Charles Hilton said this is bigger than he's ever seen back there. He told me that it's from what I understand, it is the first time that water has gotten in St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church. Literally, the only high ground back there was the parking lot in the school that was not wet. Housing got authority, and as we said, we had over 7.5 feet measured depth this morning along Park. So, and also down on Mary. That's kind of the team. I hope I didn't miss anybody. I may have missed some firefighters. We had another team working today back there. But the team, it was a combined effort between us, the Housing Authority. We were working with the Housing Authority right from Thursday night to work forward. I was in communications with Babette the whole time, and Andrew the whole time as we were going forward, as how we were going to move forward, working with EMS and Red Cross, and the team here did an outstanding job, and I want to say thank you to all of you.
I don't think that you missed anyone, Lowell, so I think I'll just say to you, we thank you, Manager Kroll, because you have done a tremendous job in leading the team and the countless hours that you have put in, so we want to say thank you to you as well. And I want to say, I couldn't be more proud of the citizens of this town. I'm telling you, the people that have stepped up and wanting to help with however they can, it's just every time something happens here, it blows me away, and the goodness of the people's hearts here. And several people have contacted me about specifics, so I just would like to let to be known. Any money that you'd like to send for any of these organizations, the Salvation Army and the Red Cross are looking for funding, as well as the Red Cross is looking for volunteers. So if you'd like to volunteer in any of that. And then on Wednesday, which is the 20th at 3 p.m., there is going to be a flood relief donation day at Generations Brewing. They are partnering with the Salvation Army and the Dream Center and the Freeport Area Church Cooperative in gathering canned goods, clothing, and bedding, or anything else that you would like to donate for any of the flood victims. Also, on a positive note, on Friday at noon, which is the 22nd, the Children's Hands-On Museum is having their ribbon cutting. And they have worked for years on trying to get their permanent residency, and so they will be located at the Lincoln Mall. And the amount of volunteer hours that have gone into that, it just blows me away with how much they really care about being a part of the children's lives here in Freeport. And then lastly, next Tuesday, which is the 26th at 6:30 at the library. The League of Women Voters is holding a forum for the candidates for the upcoming elections, which the consolidated election is on April 2nd. So really looking for people to turn out and let their voice be heard on their candidates. And if you're not familiar with who's running in what office, go to the library next Tuesday at 6:30 and listen to what they have to say. So voting is important. Alderman Ross, you are first this evening.
Okay. It's going to be hard to follow City Manager Crow, but I'm going to give it a shot, though. Well, first of all, I do want to thank Manager Crow, because it took a lot to organize everything that has been done this weekend. And I can see how he gets choked up because there was so much going on. So I'm going to say you did an ultimate job. And now, along with the fire chief, the police chief, the city workers, the Mavis group, everybody, Dennis Carr, he was out there. My right-hand partner over here, Peter McClellan, he was out there. It was just, I know I done forgot some people, I know I have, but, you know, it was a job well done by all. I don't know which city worker this was, but on Saturday night, they went to go do a rescue down on South Hancock, Creighton, yeah, South Hancock. When the firemen went down, firemen, police chief, Barklow, and some city workers, they took a truck down. The lady didn't have boots, so the city worker took his boots off and gave them to the lady.
That was Aaron Reed.
Yeah, okay, Aaron Reed, yes. I mean, he, you know, come on. I mean, that's some great gratitude. I mean, you just don't see it. So I am so happy to see everybody come together and made this transition happen. No one got hurt. Just a lot of gratitude, and I just want to say thank you, because that's what it's all about. And thank you again, Manager Crow, because you did do a good job. I mean, it's just like you did it like clockwork, you know. But like you said, though, you know, it takes a lot to do this, and everybody worked together as a team. So thank you again.
Thank you, Alderman Parker.
Can't say any more than's already been said, but thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Alderman Busker.
I guess ditto thanks to everyone who's been involved in helping with the floods this week. I know in the past, when it's flooded over there, I've done the door-to-doors. It's grueling work. I appreciate everything everyone's done this week. Other than that, I've got nothing else.
Thank you, Alderman Brashaw.
I just want to say farewell to Chief Allen and thank you and God bless.
Alderman Keister.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. A couple of quick things. First of all, 7th Ward Neighborhood Watch week from Wednesday, 6:30, main fire station, the Old County Building. Second of all, Chief Allen, you're going to be missed. I'm jealous. I want to go down to Florida myself, but I can't. But I hope you have a good time. And Intern Chief Townsend, congratulations on your promotion. Having worked with you, I know you'll do a fine job. You always have. And I'm looking forward to seeing how you progress. I want to congratulate everybody that worked on this flood, too. I am not going to try to name names because I don't know all of them. But having worked the 2010 flood, I know how much work it is and what's involved. And really, I can't say thank you enough to the people that get out there and did what they did. One other thing I want to say, I know it's not till next month on the 2nd. However, the election is coming up again. Please, ladies and gentlemen, let's not have a turnout like we had in the primaries. 3.8% is pathetic. So please, mark your calendar, get out and vote. If you don't think you're going to remember it, early voting is open right now. Please get out, make your voice heard.
Thank you, Alderman Burberry.
All the good positive things and the thanks have been said and the appreciation. I'd like to just add, we've lived in Freeport 52 years and been through several floods, some 100-year floods. And until you're in a position like this, you do not appreciate the resources this community has and the effort they go to help the people when in need. And I appreciate being involved to this extent that I can witness this and be part of it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Alderman Clem.
I'd just like to basically echo what everybody said as far as the work that was done. I know, as the mayor mentioned, Salvation Army and other agencies are looking for some help as we move forward. We all know right now is just a point where we're waiting for water to basically stop coming up and going down, and we all know there'll be a lot of work after that. I hope that we'll be able to get some of the stuff that we had before, like the pump that the Salvation Army had and the crews that came in and clean up. But you know, after it's all down, there's still a whole bunch of work that everybody's going to participate in. And thank you guys for doing it. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Alderman McClanathan.
Thank you. First, to Fire Chief Allen, thank you for your time here, and we will miss you. We appreciate what you brought and the time that you did here. Like as you mentioned and has been mentioned, there's a lot of things that you undertook on it, and I greatly appreciate it. So thank you for all your efforts on that. You will be missed. You all have said everything in regards to the individuals that I'd want to thank in regards to that. And a couple things. One, first off, it's to see firsthand all the individuals in the city who stepped up in regards to that. Thank you. They're very much. Thank you very much. And also, I know it's been brought up, but Art. I mean, I know you were up about 36 straight hours at one point in regards to that between. I mean, it's not just your home and your ward, but, you were taking phone calls, you were out walking on that. And I hope your neighbors appreciate all the efforts that you put in onto that. But like I said, seeing some of those firsthand, I really appreciated the efforts that you put in and taking care of your neighbors there. One thing I will note, to not rehash everything that's been done, but I'll just also encourage everybody in the viewing public. As you said, the water's still sitting at 17 feet right now. It's going to take the better part of this week to get down below the 13-foot stage. If it does that by the end of this week, there's going to be a ton of work and a ton of need going forward. I'm encouraged to hear of all the entities that are already involved and will be involved, but if you don't know where to serve or you don't know who to donate to, or you don't know who to give things to, make a call, because there's going to be plenty of need. And while the city administration and the nonprofits and all the other volunteers did about everything I think they could do on this stage, let's all step up and take care of those needs on the next stage that are coming out, stuff that may even be beyond what just the city would require, but what we as individual citizens can do. So let's step up and make part two a success.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Clem?
Did you mention, you had originally talked about people donating. Is there a drop-off point for that, or how is it?
For Wednesday, yeah, it's at Generations Brewing. Generations Brewing.
Okay, but also about, will there be a drop-off if somebody wants to donate? I know if they want to donate to the Salvation Army or Red Cross, they can. Is there anything else set up as a fund that somebody can donate to for flood help or flood relief?
Those are the only ones I know, unless Manager Crowe knows of something.
No, we can go, I can reach out to the area banks to see about setting up a fund where people can donate at.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next is public comments, and we'll start with what's on the list. Wendy.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mr. Crowe, those of you that sit in City Council and are supposed to be serving and servicing those of us in this community. I'd like to take you down history lane in Freeport, Illinois. In 2008, 76 people came together to assist the elderly, disabled, housing residents, and overall East Side community. Before this tragic flood that elected to destroy this town, both the east side and the south end of town, those 75 people rallied around me to join forces with FACC. And that joint venture brought about the hiring of 6 men to help clean basements, 75 of those basements to be exact, of elderly and disabled individuals within this community. Now I'd like to flash forward to 2019 and listen to you, Madam Mayor, talk about a collection of canned goods. It's wonderful. I listened to everybody around the table talk about rescues and the events that happened on the east side. And I applaud you for your efforts. But I must say that the things that you've done are the things that were expected as elected officials. And I'm sure the residents appreciate it. But I want to talk about right now and the individuals that you saw sitting in that audience, the ones that are sitting here still, and the ones that walked out your door, because they're living in despair with children who were taken out without clothing, 2-year-olds who have nothing on their backs, who have no food to eat. I want to talk to you about the individuals that I saw today at 3 hotels who are getting $5 and $10 discounts and don't know where they're going to lay their heads down tomorrow, who can't afford to pay a hotel fee and have no idea what their day is going to look like the next day. I want to talk to you about immediate needs right now and what we're going to do about that. Tomorrow is a whole nother story for those individuals. I want to talk to you about individuals that have come to me and said that their house has water from the basement floor to the ceiling of that basement. And they have enough money to sit in to pay for a hotel for 2 days, and tomorrow they're going to be in the streets. But their husband is doing deliveries for a local company so that he can feed his wife. A mother that came to me today and said that she has no clothing for her children because the individuals that came to rescue her told her that they could not allow her to grab clothing. I want to tell you a story about a young lady who said a 911 operator told her that this was the last call they were going to take. So while you talk to me about needs, I want to ask you how are they going to open up a canned good and cook? Where are they going to iron some clothes that they don't have? How are they going to wash them?
We really appreciate all your comments, but I have to stay in lines with the ordinance, and you've exceeded your 3 minutes.
That's fine and dandy, but may I say one more thing? In 2008, we could go for a voucher, and the voucher would pay for a hotel room. So I'm going to tell you what I did today. And Alderman can tell you. I've asked that if you're going to ask for some money, to keep them in a hotel, pay that money to the hotel, and allow them to have some place where there's a roof over their heads. Help them to stay someplace where they're safe and comfortable. You guys think Highland is safe and comfortable? I got a person that told me that there was a family out there that last $30 was stolen out their pockets. We've got people here that are talking about they have teenage daughters and they don't want them out there with grown men. Find them a safe place. Help them to feel safe. You want them to be comfortable as they can possibly be in the situation that they're in. If your heart is pouring out, let it pour out in the words that I've told you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Next, we have Chris. So is there Clara? James? Allison? Allison.
I live on the east side, and me and my mother mother and my daughter, and, you know, we all know we're flooded. I do want to thank the rescue. They were really great, really nice. I didn't have a problem.
Allison, would you mind going up to the
Oh,
microphone?
sorry. I just want to thank the rescue very much because they were very nice and they were, you know, very helpful with me and my family, my daughter, my granddaughter, my mother. I was upset about the door-to-door thing. I live at 28 North Lewis. On North Lewis, we never received nothing. Nobody came to my door, my mother's door, or my daughter's door. We live on the same street on North Lewis, and nobody came to us and told us anything. Sometimes I feel they forget about us on North Lewis. And then I was the one that did the 911. I had called once to have my mom and my daughter, my granddaughter, evacuated. At that time, I was going to stay with my husband, you know, because that's our home. We work hard for every little thing that we have. And so they left. I called 911 again. At that time, she told me, aren't you Allison, the same one that had called about to get your daughter? And I was like, yes, you know, because they had come over to my house at that time to evacuate, which my mom didn't. But she goes, well, okay, well, you know, this is your second time, you know, this ain't gonna be a third time. I'll give you to the number for the dispatch straight number, the 235-8222, whatever number. I didn't think that was right. That's one that kind of made me scared. Like, I should be able to call 911 anytime for any reason. I don't care if I called 3 times, you know, and especially at a time like this. It's scary. That's the most we've ever had over there, you know, and now we're getting flooded like 2 times, you know, 3 times a year, but this was the worst. So I feel that's not right. You should be able to call 911 anytime. But other than that, the rescue was great, and I just, don't forget about us on Lewis, on North Lewis. I know, because we do kind of forget on that street. Forgotten, I'm sorry, I'm nervous. But yeah, nobody came to our door at all. And we got to remember us over there, so.
Well, we apologize that you were forgotten.
Okay, that's it. And I just hope that, you know, we get some help and relief, you know, because, like I said, we all work real hard. Well, not all of us, but most of us anyhow, and this is going to be really bad. I already know I lost, like, my furnace, hot water heater, and I've never usually lost nothing because I'm always prepared for something like this. If you're prepared, you keep the water out, you know, but in this time, there was no preparing. Pumps didn't matter, it just came in, so that's it. I don't really have nothing else to say. I just want to say that. Okay, all right.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Was there anyone else that didn't sign up?
Ma'am, at this point in time, unfortunately, this would be out of order because there isn't. We understand, and I think the clerk has it for the minutes. Thank you so much.
Is there anyone else for public comment? Tommy?
Fire Chief, I got a question. Somebody at Berryville Church said there's a fire at last week. Pastor from the Berryville Church told me there's a fire there, but they moved to the hotel because of fire in Freeport.
Oh, what day was that?
That's what Pastor said is about last week, because he tried to get a pastor from the Berryville Church trying to get a hold of him, because he meant it on Sunday.
Okay, well, we'll talk afterwards.
All right.
Yep.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we will have item number 22, which is executive session. Madam Clerk, could you please read this for the record?
Pursuant to 5 ILCS 122C2, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
Thank you. Is there a motion for entering into executive session? We have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman McClanathan. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Ross?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Busker?
Aye.
Brashaw?
Aye.
Keister?
Aye.
Burberry?
Aye.
Clem?
Aye.
And McClanathan.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.